Do you have any general thoughts about this election? I mean, does the election of Nigel Farage make you hopeful for the future of Conservatism, or are you just disheartened by this Labor majority you've been stuck with?
Well, I mean, it's good that there'll actually be some real Conservative opposition in the House of Commons, because we haven't had that for the last. Well, we haven't had that for forever, as far as I'm concerned. But what worries me is actually that the overall majority of people. I mean, that people talk about the fact that Reform, had over 4 million votes, and but only got got 5 seats in the end. Whereas Labour, didn't even, just over half of that and get there over 400, whatever it was, 421 seats. But the problem is, actually, if you look at the results, what I call the left wing actually won a significant majority of the votes overall. Those people who voted, of course, and of course only 60% of the people voted. But actually, if you look at the share, although Labour only got 33%, which interestingly was actually less than what Corbyn got when he was leader, the left-wing parties, when you throw in the Greens, these independent Muslims, the Scots nationalists, the Lib Dems, Sinn Féin, these are all essentially, it's the Unit Party. These are the sort of, they're the extreme left of the Unit Party. They got that, I think they got over 61%. And the Conservative, the right-wing parties, of whom you've really only got, the Conservatives and the Reform, only got about 37% overall. So that's what worries me about this. That I can't see this. And if with Labour in now, they are going to implement policies which are going to make it they're going to change, various constitutional measures, which make it very difficult, I believe, for a truly Conservative party to get in again.
Well, it's interesting. You're a numbers guy. It's your whole life. And people who don't have a lot of experience with numbers are looking at the results of the elections and saying, well, why didn't the Conservatives get more vote? Why didn't Reform get more seats? Because the numbers don't look right. But when you look at the overall numbers, the left is there. In the primary vote, some kind of left wing there is there. But also the interesting thing you've got with your system that we don't have is this huge block of unknown numbers. You don't know how the people who stay at home think or vote. Does that make it hard to predict elections there in the UK when you've got this bulk of, in Australia, those people tend to be Conservative, but I don't know what it is in the UK. Does that make it harder to tell if there's a political movement?
It probably does. I mean, there is. I think then I'm a little bit heartened by the fact that the thing about it's interesting that Reform eventually got this number of seats because Nigel Farage decided to stand as their leader, right? You know that. And what's interesting is the timing of when he did that. He did that the day after. He made that announcement the day after there was this big Tommy Robinson rally of patriots which took place in London on the 1st of June. And I think he saw that was such an enormous success. There were so many people there. It was a really good family event. People, the press were saying there's going to be sort of football thugs, so it's going to be violence and all that sort of stuff. But it was actually a really good, peaceful rally. And there was a lot of speakers there who were not traditionally associated with, the extreme right. I mean, there was people like, Calvin Robinson there. You had Lawrence Fox, I guess they think he is extreme right. But you had people like Carl Benjamin. So Tommy Robinson was able to get together these kinds of people, and people saw that there was kind of like an alternative Conservative movement, alternative to Conservatives. And there was such a groundswell of opinion there. This was, that there was something happening. That's what I think Farage saw that and felt he could capitalize on that. And I think that the people who are not voting will certainly, as you say, suggest, will be more coming from that type of people next time round. So I think that they will increase their vote. But unfortunately, I still believe, and people say, the sort of Gen Z now, the younger generation maybe are turning away from the sort of woke woke left-wing ideology, moving more to the right. I don't really see that. My concern is that I still see the brainwashing of the youth in the sort of school system and universities is such that I don't have a lot of hope that the youth are going to be turning towards this movement. So you're relying on older people who don't vote to come in and change things, and
to be motivated to come in, which is something that younger people normally do. And look, for those who are online watching, Carl Benjamin is of course Sargon of Akkad.